Good morning. Welcome to the Tuesday meeting of the BOCC. Well, if you want to join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll start there.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Minutes, Commissioner Mortensen.
I'd like to do them, but I'm actually not here. I will be here in a moment. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I have had an opportunity to review the minutes of our last week's meetings, and they appear to be in order. I would move that we approve them as submitted by staff.
Okay. We have a motion to approve. Questions, comments, corrections on the minutes? Okay, seeing none, call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Run through consent agenda. Under agreements, contracts, bid awards, items 1 through 12. They're all memorandum of understandings, and it has to do with ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act funds. So we had to have a memorandum of understanding in place for the projects that were approved under this thing. So that's 1 through 12 on agreements. Number 13 is a change order, number 2 with Lakeside Industry on the 2024 payment overlay. This was an addition for some of the areas that we experienced some heavier rutting to put additional overlay down, and it's a $9,000 adjustment is what the change order is. Correspondence. This will make Mr. Hill happy. We got a letter to Brian Ebola, reappointing him to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. And we have a letter to Eric Halverson, appointing him to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee for the City of Longview. They're both 2-year terms. They both expire at the end of March 2026. And vouchers this past week in the amount of $2,505,703.33. And that's consent agenda. Anybody has any questions?
So, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to point out that Mr. Evola has been appointed to represent the waste management industry. So he actually works for Waste Control or Waste Connections, the parent company of Waste Control. And they've had that position, from the beginning. He used to be one of the Willis boys when they owned Waste Control. The story about the ARPA plan, that was an effort to help with declining revenues on the part of local governments. And there were 2 categories. I hope I don't mess it up, but Susan's here. She can probably correct me. One portion of the ARPA monies was designed to address some very specific things. There were the emergency health-related circumstances, including HVAC systems. So you'll see some contracts for improving HVAC. The other portion was to address infrastructure in terms of water and sewer issues, again, health-related. So you'll see a number of projects that were identified by staff as needs for ARPA monies from that. A second major category was left unrestricted. And only with the federal government would this kind of a situation happen. They actually wrote into the law that local governments whose revenues did not increase by 4% were deemed to have suffered a loss of income. And so we got a whole bunch of other money that could be used without restrictions to do whatever needed to be done in the terms of us. The understanding was all that money, and based on which program you're looking at, Calais County got well over $50 million through ARPA. Not all to Calais County, but a lot of local governments. And the understanding was it had to be assigned by the end of this year. And so we've been assigning it all, our share all along. And that gives the entities 2 years to actually spend the money. So there's another deadline coming up, 2026. So those dates are very important. But apparently, several months ago, the Department of Treasury, that's managing the money, handing out the money, decided that each project had to have a memorandum of understanding. And so most of these projects are memorandums of understanding with ourselves that we're going to spend the money. It's at least from my way of thinking, it's one of those very bizarre things that is paperwork. And of course, since Calais County is the largest paper producing community in the United States, I guess that's in our own best interest, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me. At any rate, Mr. Mortensen, I'm sure you have some other questions or comments.
Yeah, actually piggybacking on what you just said, I always find it modestly entertaining that the divide and conquer approach is always offered. Money is a fungible quantity, and while we are in work sessions, we discuss not whether we're going to do something, but which pot of money we're going to access. Well, let's take it from here because this is restricted for here, and that allows us this pot of unrestricted dollars to spend otherwise. It's government engineering, and it seems like to me, it is typically counterproductive, but that's a long argument. I do have a specific question, probably for Susan. Who is on the other side of this MOU? So with whom are we MOUing?
Good morning, Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. The majority of those MOUs are signed by either the Public Works Director, the Public Services Director, whatever his hat is on that day. So you're signing an agreement with, I guess, the manager of those funds. So the manager of the Water Sewer Fund for a lot of those cases and facilities. So
It's an official memorializing of the decisions.
yes,
Okay, it doesn't involve a commitment to a third agency out there.
in this case for these MOUs, no, they're all internal projects. We did other ones. You created contracts with, like, I believe Beacon Hill Sewer, Carroll's Water District, Woodland, maybe. I think we're the three that I can think of off the top of my
It's
head.
the strangest use of an MOU you've ever seen.
Probably.
Okay, thank you.
When I was looking through them last night, Mr. Moss's name was already on all of them.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda as has been presented and discussed.
Okay. We have a motion to approve. Comments? Go ahead.
I recognize Commissioner Weber's comment about the printing presses. Unfortunately, we do have family wage jobs to continue to rely upon that, and we've stayed in the business. And unfortunately, we are not recognizing the Biden money tree, which has taken our national debt up to $35 trillion over, and that the value of those dollars that you're talking about has decreased by at least 20% in the last few years over all of this. That's hurting each and every single one of us, even though it seems like we're getting something free. Nothing is free. And so I'm I hope we all feel the pain equally because it is a pain on all of us. And we can see the recognition of the dollars. Even our administrative leadership fails to recognize when the Supreme Court says you don't have founding to be doing all of these student debt reliefs at billions of dollars. So our money is being thrown around like leaves in the wind.
Well, and even, it's even more sinister than that. It's not our money that's being thrown around, it's our grandchildren's money. They're the ones that are going to be paying the debt. And that's-
allowing it.
And we're allowing it.
But just as a point of order, we're still on the consent agenda,
Yeah.
not the general comments. Anyhow,
That was the money we're talking about.
Mhm.
You're spending,
yeah, right, understood.
not free.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Let me say this, and the point that's always lost is the fact that that money is taxpayer dollars. It's our dollars. It's coming back into the community for the benefit of the folks that paid it out of their pocket to the federal government. The fact of the matter is, you folks have wisely spent that money, that taxpayer dollar coming back into our community to do good works. Thank you for spending it wisely. And it is a return to us, and we shouldn't forget that. In fact, I'd rather that money be spent here than in some other state or other community. But thank you for your wise distribution of those funds.
Yeah, actually, if we look at it, we clearly do not pay we do not pay for what we receive. So I think this year, a family of four is in the hole by $96,000. Well, no, actually, it's per person, some $96,000 per person. Make it 75, make it 100, it really doesn't matter. It's just out of control.
Okay, go ahead.
Just a real quick question. Is there a timeline for all of these? Or does it have to be spent within the year or 5 years? Is there a,
There's still a timeline on
okay,
them, and I don't know that I have the exact date for those into
So
26.
so these memorandums of understanding need to be done by the end of this year.
And I think.
And then there's 2 years
expenditure-
of spending, and we probably haven't gotten the rules yet on how that's monitored. In fact, the National Association is very much aware, they're monitoring it because we know projects usually run longer. And so they're anticipating maybe extending that to get projects done. But right now it's December 31st, 2026.
okay. I just want to make sure it was the same as the cities because it's a different type with MOU for the county within yourself. So I wasn't sure if you had the same timelines as the cities do. So it is 26 there. Okay, thank you.
I think there may be an idle threat by the agencies that say, if you don't spend it, we'll take it back. And that's where we want to avoid that.
And it's not an idle threat. I mean,
It's a real threat in your
They plan
opinion?
on clawing it back. That's the term that they use. They'll claw it back. If it's the money that's not obligated is going to be clawed back in January.
So that supports if you got it, hurry up and spend it?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's been 3 or 4 years, so it's not like hurry up and spend it. We should have already allocated everything, but
Yeah, however, a very nice thing about this is we're not squandering it.
Yeah.
These projects take time to develop after you've taken time to prioritize them.
so it's a slight bird walk. One of the project not on this list is assistance to the city of Woodland to address the exit 21.
Yeah,
They've spent some money on some feasibility studies for alternatives, but it requires collaboration with WashDOT. And they've not been willing to accept any of those options at this point in time. that may be some of the money that the feds get back if it's not spent in 2 years.
In that case, I hope it gets back to us.
Yeah, well,
But
we won't have allocated it to something else. So we missed that opportunity.
Yeah.
That might be a Kaylee McKay question. Can we obligate just in case a contingency allocation? So that if it's not spent, we can spend it on that secondary project. We should probably look in on
I
that.
tend to look at things like that, the captain of that pirate ship, these are guidelines.
Oh,
We're here.
hi.
Hello.
Hi. We've got a few clarifying things that we can provide. So the money has to be obligated by 12/31/2024. There was a lot of talk about how we would consider it obligated when we are spending those funds within our own county, which is how the MOUs came about. The feds met with everybody and we got the guidance that we can enter into MOUs within our own county to consider that obligated because we can't necessarily contract with ourselves, which is why we went into memorandums of understanding. This is what everyone is doing across the board to consider those funds obligated. So there is also guidance on if we enter into an agreement, a contract, and that funding can't be fully utilized and it comes back to us, we do have the ability to re-obligate it. It doesn't just get taken away from us. So we will have the ability to spend that out again. There's more details related to that. We haven't, it's one of those ever-changing guidances still, so I can't give you any more detail than that, but we will have the opportunity to enter into a different agreement with that funding if for whatever reason it can't be spent.
And who are you?
This is Kaylee. Sorry.
No,
This is
I mean
Kaylee
for the
McKay.
public.
Oh, yeah, Kaylee McKay, Comptroller in the Auditor's Office. Apologies, I got ahead of myself.
Thank you. No, that's good. I like that enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, they had
Yes.
an update at Woodland Council last night on that project, and they're still trying to work with the state, but they haven't. They're still hopeful, but it's
Now,
been difficult.
they have spent some of that on engineering, right? Or
Yeah.
planning engineering.
And
Yes.
they have in with the Army Corps, they want to do some drilling, so they're looking for a permit to do that, but that seems to be moving along.
Oh, good. Just so the public doesn't get too optimistic. The plans I have seen are essentially a Band-Aid for a bad situation that'll only get more extreme as time goes on.
So that was exciting in a consent agenda today. Any other questions or concerns on it? Okay, we have a motion on, and seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. One motion item today is Susan's show.
Good morning, Susan Eugenius, County Engineer. So the motion item that I'm bringing forth today is a change order for specialized pavement marking for the 2024 Joint Agency Striping Project. The county, because of the cost of striping, went through our roadways this year and eliminated some of our roads to get annual striping, some of our local streets. And when we did that, we overlooked and accidentally excluded some roadways that we feel should be striped. These include roads like Cool Road, Shirley Gordon, and so we added those back into the contract. The contractor was willing to do them at the unit price bid because we did them along with the roads we were already doing. So the change order amount is $58,500. That brings our contract amount up to $776,957.50.
And is a portion of this money part of a grant from Federal Highway Safety? Not this.
This
time.
is all local dollars.
On Cool Road, is it still sloughing off the cliff there?
no more than it was last year. Cool Road is one of the roads we watched. It does not have a landslide right now that is making driving conditions hazardous, but Cool Road is one of the ones we
On
watch.
Cool Road, there's a landslide. I haven't been up there in a while.
There is one spot it's at an intersection where there's some strange cracking that we always watch every winter. But there is not one that we're actively going to be repairing in the future. We just have some hot spots on there we watch. Same with Kalama River Road and some of our other roads that have a tendency to slide lane. We have other roads that we just watch.
Just out of curiosity, just above or just below where Mount Pleasant and Cool Road come together in a very awkward intersection, going down Cool Road from there is a very steep section, and they do get ice and snow there. Do we have reported accidents on that slope? I think you always worked hard to keep it clear, but
We do work hard to keep it clear. I don't know off the top of my head. I could certainly have our accidents
Oh,
reports
just-
checked.
just curious.
It's not a spot that I can think of off the top of my head. We do have internal cameras on a couple intersections where we can check to see if there's snow and ice on the road, and it shows us what the temperature is. And actually that intersection, that location is one of the ones we watch.
Where Mount Pleasant and Cool come in?
Yes.
Very nice. All right.
We have them, there's one there, there's one on headquarters. I'm trying to think of the one on the west side. We have them in numerous locations and at different elevations to give us a good indicator. So when the road supervisors wake up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, they can make the decision. They can pull those cameras up and say, ooh, we've got snow here. It's dry over here. So we have a good idea how many crews we need to be calling in.
I like that. Is it recorded or it's
No,
just the measurement?
It's just a measurement.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Ron.
Since we're speaking of painting and striping, whose authority is for the old Cowlitz River Bridge there? Any of us and all of you to drive over that bridge, it's a nightmare trying to see where the lines are and where the curb is in the dark. We don't have any fog lines on there, like we paint fog lines all over. But there's a place where you need fog lines along the edge to see. Whose authority is that?
The Cowlitz River Bridge is part of SR4, and in the jurisdiction of counties, when it's roadways that are state highways, I believe Kelso is not responsible for the striping because they're under the size limit, which I believe is 15 or 17,000. So Longview on Ocean Beach is responsible for that striping, but Kelso is not responsible for SR4 striping.
So
So
Yeah.
WashDOT.
Paraphrase,
WashDOT.
whose
WashDOT.
authority is the bridge?
WashDOTs.
WashDOTs. Do we have a communication with them to say, all of the striping we're doing, all of the bike lanes, et cetera, and here is one most very important stretch of road. So do you have communications with WashDOT to say, hey, here's a priority?
I can reach out to the area engineer's office for you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the change order number 1 with the Specialized Pavement Marker LLC for the 2024 Joint Agency Pavement Striping Project as described by staff.
We have a motion on the floor. Any other question, comments? I will say, and I think we've mentioned it before, that the cost of this keeps rising at, I don't know if you want to call it alarming rates, but fast rates. And so we are looking at the cost benefit, if it would make sense to purchase our own striping machine and take care of this ourselves. And we will have a determination on that sometime down the road. But we are looking at that because this keeps climbing at too steep a grade.
And Susan, we do have memorandums with other local agencies to share some of the striping responsibilities.
So there are other agencies that piggyback on this contract and use the same striping company. We do the bid and they pay their portions and enter into a separate contract with them for their part.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, see none, call for a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Before I open it up, we have no meeting tomorrow. We usually have Public Works on Wednesday. We're moving them to today at 1:30. So if you have an interest in, if you usually come to the Wednesday 1:30 meeting, you'll be here by yourself. There won't be anybody here, but, so we've moved the Public Works to today and we have no 2:30 budget item for tomorrow either. So nothing going on tomorrow. All right. Okay. We'll open it up to the public.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Board. My name is Jim Hill. I reside at 1100 North 22nd Avenue, Kelso, Washington. First of all, I want to apologize to this board. I am assuming that you all had an opportunity over your breakfast coffee to read today's daily news article regarding our discussion on the landfill, its future rates, makeup of the SWAC board, et cetera. It was pointed out that I used the word farce as to the efforts of this board to fill the positions that are vacant on SWAC. I apologize. I should have used a more circumspect phraseology, which was would have been, in my opinion, it was less than adequate. But it is a sincere apology if I did in fact use that word, alluding to your efforts as being farcical. So please accept my apology. And we'll go forward from there. The best news I've had is that we've had two positions which you folks are under consideration for filling. One from the industry itself, waste industry itself, which I think is most critical. What wasn't addressed was a small city representative on the board. And I would recommend again that this board take into consideration appointing someone from the city of Castle Rock. If you can't come to a definitive conclusion on another representative, either the previous representative or the currently requested appointment person, I think that Castle Rock is a logical and maybe even important representative to have on SWAC. Then I want to address a statement that was printed now in the public domain in the daily news. And that is that cities, in order to receive revenues from the profits of the landfill operation, should invest in its operational cost. Cities are made up of people. It's not the government. It's the folks that reside in our cities, that are our cities. Those folks pay for the operation of that landfill. I think it's a fair and equitable amount at present, but they pay. And hence, it's not the government of the city requesting an equitable share of those profits. It's the folks that live in our cities. And that seems to be the point that's lost in that discussion. So as you consider the landfill, if you in fact are going to consider its future at all, two things are critical. First of all, the residents of the communities pay for the operation of that landfill. They also have assumed the debt liability of that landfill and have said, we're willing to pay for it long-term. It's an essential service. I consider it an asset of the people of this county. Certainly, you folks can have your opinion as to how it operates. Business, service, essential service. The fact of the matter is, we need a bigger discussion, and I would encourage you to fill the SWAC vacancies so that we can talk about it at SWAC, make our best recommendations to you as to its future, how it's operated, and even expand that discussion with the communities on revenue sharing. And I know that's a point of contention and within the board, but the fact of the matter is, who does that landfill serve? Industries and the citizens. And it's something that I think that we ought to get together, the communities in the county and you folks, and let's have an open and free debate, free of previous position, but a willingness to talk about. I think it's important.
So do I hear in your request a willingness to follow the pattern that the Three Rivers Wastewater Treatment Authority followed, and having the cities as well as the county all guarantee the bond payments?
I think so. I believe that.
Because you're the first city official who said, yes, you're willing to guarantee your local property taxes to support the bill, to support the bonds.
I honestly, on a personal level, and as an elected official, believe that's the appropriate course. The fact of the matter is, we have to look at that landfill just as we look at water, just as we look at water waste, how we handle the byproduct of civilization, folks living. I think that would be an approach, and I'm willing to talk about it. Now, please remember, I speak only on my behalf, but I think it's a larger discussion that we ought to come together. I think right now, we all are working at cross purposes, and I don't think that's reasonable expectation or the one that the folks that reside in this county should have. I think they ought to feel as though we can all get together and talk.
Well, as long as from my perspective, and I don't want to speak for my colleagues, but from my perspective, as long as we're successful at keeping the rates among the lowest in the state of Washington, we're not at cross purposes. We need to make sure whatever decision we make, keep those rates low. And
Mr. Chairman.
that addresses your employment issues because of industry, as well as the homeowners who come to depend on that weekly pickup for the garbage.
Mr. Chairman and board, let me say this. We enjoy some of the lowest rates without question. And that has to do with a lot of things, but most essentially, it has to do with how your staff has operated that landfill to the greatest extent realistically and economically as possible. There has been a contribution from you folks and an energy directed towards keeping those rates as low as possible. That's commendable. But the fact of the matter is, the greater discussion needs to be what happens after today and going forward. And that's a larger, and forgive me, I thought it was off, gentlemen. Nevertheless, I'd like to conclude my remarks at this time, but I'll answer any questions if you have. Seeing none, adjourned, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, I'm not seeing anything. So thanks for participating. We will adjourn. Thank you.